Hello. This would be part two of the hot tub review that I did on this portable inflatable hot tub, the Bestway Miami, also now known as the Saluspa Miami. Um, I've gone through and kind of covered a lot of the basics on the tub, kind of what its capabilities are, what it can do, what it can't do. And just the sort of, just bare basics. Now, here I've got the cover off. As you can see, it's an inflatable cover, so you do fill that one up as well each time you go and refill the tub with air. I generally try and refill the lid with air. You do want to make sure you don't overfill it because it has a tendency to not sit right and wedge in properly to form a good seal, and then it's not being as effective at doing its job of keeping the tub warm. The tub itself, as you see here, there are no lights on this model, so I do recommend if you put it in an area where you want to use it at night, that you get some form of light. I got this here. It's just a cheap, cheesy little sort of kitchen light from Lowe's, and it has done surprisingly well, believe it or not. It's still running the same batteries from last year, and it still works great. You'll see the bottom. There's no seats or anything in it. It's just a flat bottom, but the bottom is very padded. It's very comfortable to sit on. Point of fact, I actually find it more comfortable than some of the hard tubs that I've sat in for regular hot tubs. The seats are just a lot more comfortable here because it's softer. So one of the other things that they don't tell you with these hot tubs, and it is a bit of a drawback, but you can work around it. You cannot run the heater and the bubble jets at the same time on these tubs. You can only run the heater when it's not bubbling. So generally speaking, that's one of the reasons why, even though 104 might be a little bit hotter than you want to try and get it as hot as possible before you turn on the bubbles, because it is going to cool down in the process, and so you want to make sure this tub's still staying nice and warm before you turn on the jets. Now personally for me, I haven't found it much of an issue. Usually if you run it up to about 103, 104, or I'd even say 102, you can run the bubbles for that half-hour cycle that they run, and they will work just fine. You'll stay nice and warm the whole time, unless it's really cold. That brings up the other thing about these tubs. These tubs are not designed to run below 40 degrees. It isn't to say some people haven't done it. They haven't, some people have wrapped it in insulation, the pump in insulation, and managed to make it work. But I wouldn't risk it. It's too hard on the tub. So if you live in a temperate weather climate like I do, I would just limit it to the season where it's best able to be used, which would be about mid-spring to, or mid to early spring to about mid-fall. And just stick with that. If you're using it indoor, obviously you can use it whenever you want to use it, as long as you got a drain nearby. So the tub only is down to about 94 degrees because I usually shut it off after it warms up to 104 and then just let it kind of sit. And then the following day I'll come out in the middle of the heat of the day, and then I turn on the heater, and that way it's warming up during the warmest part of the day, which takes a little bit of the wear and tear and effort off of the pump. So it's working with the weather instead of against it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the bubbles. About 2/3 of the way around this tub, and you probably can't see it very well, there is a sort of bubble jet mat that inflates and starts spitting out all the bubbles when it goes ahead and gets inflated with air. So this side over here by where the filters are, there's one of them, there's another one there. They don't have the inflate area there, so if you're sitting on this side, technically you're only getting ambient bubbles. If you really want the bubbles, you need to be sitting around that area where the inflatable thing is. The other thing to be aware of, as shown here, there are 2 filters on there. They're these paper filters by Coleman, or not Coleman, they're by Bestway, who makes tubs and equipment for Coleman. The filters, I found the best way to do it is to buy a box of 12, which basically gives you 6 sets, and that gives you what should last you for about a 6-month season, as long as you stay on top of filter changes. You can spray out the filters. They are reusable. You just want to make sure you clean them out and spray them down with a garden hose real good. I've heard of some people putting them in the dishwasher. I tried that once. It didn't work for me, but you know, you can do whatever you want to do with that. But I've just personally found that a garden hose with a sprayer is the best method to do. It's the easiest, simplest, and most effective. So you just keep cleaning them out, and then you keep rotating them. I do recommend every time after you use this tub that you go ahead while you're still in the tub and change the filters. It's the easiest way to do it. It's the easiest way to keep it clean. And then afterwards, what you do is you get out, you drop in, you know, a spoonful of bromine or chlorine or whatever chemical you choose to use, and then run the bubble jets, and that'll mix up the chemicals real quick for you, and just let it run on a cycle on the bubble jets. And then after that, just turn it off and let it either cycle through the filtration, which is what I would recommend. That way you're getting some good pump action through there, you know, filtering things through. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the jets now, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like and what it does. It is going to get a little bit loud. The pump does sound a bit like a shop vac. Not quite as loud, thankfully, with this model. It's a bit quieter. Usually what I would say, it has an audible range, you know, where it would be noticeable for probably about 15 to 20 feet. So if you're concerned about noise by running the jets and the pump or whatever, you know, disturbing your neighbors later at night or something like that, as long as they are more than that distance away from you, and of course if they're in another house or something like that, they're probably not going to hear it and be bothered by it. I've never had any complaints from my neighbors when I run it at night. So anyways, here's what it's like with the jets on. So as you can see, it bubbles pretty good. If you put your back right up against there, you'll get some good little kind of bubble massaging action on your back. And it runs pretty well. As I said, it's not as effective as those massaging jets, but you know, for what it is and for the price you're paying, it actually does do a pretty good job. The bubbles are fairly resilient, fairly powerful, and as you can see, they churn things up pretty good in there for you. So you can just sit there on the, you know, the comfy bottom and rest your back up against the side, and it works pretty good for you. You can also, you know, stick your feet there on the bubble mats, and it'll kind of massage your feet for you. So, but anyways, that's basically what it's like when it's fully running. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off now. You can hear it has that kind of a backflow, you know, pressure thing there once it shuts off, and that's normal. Don't be surprised by that. So the other thing is, if you'll notice here on the keypad, it does have a lock button. I do strongly recommend when you set this thing up and if you plug it in that you do lock it, because you can accidentally bump the button, and the last thing you want to do is turn on that heater when it's not hooked up to the tub, because it's just going to cause it to trip the fault sensor on it and shut off, and then you have to go through and reset it by resetting the ground fault switch that's on that plug right there. Now you notice here I'm doing what is not recommended. I have it hooked up to an extension cord. Honestly, I've never had an issue with it. I've never had a problem with it. You know, I know they tell you to plug it in directly, but quite frankly, I don't have any plugs anywhere near. And if I'm going to go ahead and wire a new plug in and extend the electrical circuits out here, well, at that point, I've already done one of the things that I've suggested was a hassle from the other tub. So, the full-fledged hot tub. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to unlocking it. Hear that? Oh, whoops, I locked it. And then go ahead and turn the heater back on. And then I'll let this run kind of throughout the day today, and then later tonight when I get home from work, it should be ready to go and I can jump in and use it. So that's kind of a basic overview of this you know, Miami hot tub, and kind of some of the things that you should be aware of with it. The box of filters, I'm sorry, I need to go back to that. You can purchase those from Amazon. Usually in season they cost you between about $32 and $35 for a box of 12. Basically, as I said, that's 6 sets because there are 2 filters to change there. But here's what I discovered. If you keep an eye out about mid-October and November of each year, since usually it's out of season, they start clearing out inventory for the year. So I've actually gotten them to the point where I've gotten the whole box for under $30, and I'll just go ahead and buy it and then stick it on a shelf and then just pull it out the next season. So I've got a box of filters ready to go for me. So it just takes a little planning ahead, but it can save you a few bucks. So anyways, if you're curious as to what the filters look like, hang on a second, I'll show you. I pulled this set of filters out after doing that initial flush out. These are what the filters look like. They're just a standard paper filter, kind of a rubber thing that just fits in those 2 sort of grayish canisters that you can see there in the tub earlier in the video. So, but that's what the filters look like. That's just a set of them right there. And I just bring them out, spray them out here, and let them dry in the sun on this patio. And then once they're done, I go and put them back in the box in my hot tub room. And that's pretty much all I've got. And thanks for watching.